and former Ducks and NFL star Anthony Newman with Ducks Game Day on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Merry Christmas. We made it through another long, dark, depressing off season, and we are back with another season of Oregon Duck football. Andy Dirt Johnson, the OG number 8, Anthony Newman, Dusty Hara hanging out with you live outside Autzen Stadium. We are 4.5 hours away from the 2024 season kicking off. Boys, how good does it feel to be back down here?
I need to stay calm. Okay, I lost my voice already. We had a jamboree last night. Yeah, we had a jamboree last night. Yeah, so I already lost it, but it's all good. But I'm so excited about the Ducks this season. This is great. It really, man. This is the perfect spot. I'm in the middle between you guys.
We've got an Anthony Newman sandwich going on again.
Yeah. This is perfect.
The mayor of the Mashofsky Center, Mashofsky Pavilion out here, where you guys can come in when the gates open up.
That's right.
You can come on in and you can party along with us here.
Yes, have some fun with this.
It is Christmas. Yeah. You said we've got through the darkness. Like, it was the longest winter ever. We're back to Christmas already.
Right.
What a great feeling it is to be back and have football back in Autzen Stadium, back in our lives. I woke up and watched College Game Day, and I felt so happy this morning.
So good,
it did,
this morning.
It felt weird last week when it was in Dublin.
Yeah,
Everything was just a little off. Everybody seemed a little sauced up. This feels right. This feels right.
And we're back, baby. And
yes, we are.
That is what is so exciting. Every year you get to it, the countdown begins, and we're going to look up and be like, hey, can you believe it? It's already Thanksgiving, man. This season flew on by.
It's going to be cold.
It'll be cold, yeah. Today, it is hot. It is hot down at Autzen Stadium. It's a beautiful day for football down here. We can't wait to see everybody. Anthony Newman signing autographs from 2:30 to 3:30 right when we're off the air today. I'm just kidding. Let me ask you this.
I love that.
So you said it, Anthony, like the most anticipated season in a while. That's kind of where I wanted to start with you guys. We got some room to breathe here. This is the most anticipated Oregon football season since, for you. How long has it been? Mariota? Are we going back that far?
Yeah, I think we're going back that. Yeah. It's this year's crazy. I think there's a couple things. There's so many dudes on this football team. Yes, that's a lot of hype.
Yep.
But, they're talking about all the dudes who can play. And then you have the transfer portal where you're bringing in new guys, and then the move to the Big Ten.
Yep.
Yeah.
When you're playing Ohio State, you're playing at Wisconsin in November, all those – come on. I mean, it's not – I'm sad about the Pac-12. That's my life. That's what I know.
That's what you played him.
But this is very exciting. I like the challenge. I love Ohio State coming here, playing at Autzen Stadium, and we're not playing them in a bowl game.
Yeah.
It's a regular season game.
Yeah.
Come on.
And that's when you talk about the anticipation. This is the most anticipated season, I think, because what is different about this year than the years past, it was always you got to go through the Pac-10 or the Pac-12, and what is it going to look like? Are you going to get the respect if you run the table, if you play well throughout the course of the season? But what Anthony just laid out is you get the Big Ten as well, and that is new, and there's anticipation around that. You have a 12-team playoff. Yeah. There's anticipation around that. Yeah. You're the preseason ranked third team in the country. There is anticipation about that. Like when the Mariota season, you have the front runner for the Heisman Trophy heading into the season in Dylan Gabriel. Anticipation about that. There's so much to look forward to this year, and you look at the depth that they have built. And again, we talk about the way that Dan Lanning has recruited and really built this program up. But it started with Mario Cristobal ramping up the recruiting, and then Dan Lanning has taken it to a completely another level. And that is also exciting, where we get to see a bunch of young guys that are really skilled and talented.
I've been around a lot of coaches, guys. I'm serious. Dan Lanning, he's different.
Yeah.
I would play for him in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
He's the type of coach that you will go through a brick wall for. He's that guy. Mm-hmm. And he has everybody believing. He has everybody trusting what he's talking about. And that is huge. If you can build the trust with your players, they will do anything for you. And they will work harder. They don't want to disappoint you. I had, one coach I had like that was a guy, it turned out bad for him, but John Gruden was a guy, it was a guy like that he was our coach, and I would do anything for John Gruden.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what it was. And if you can have that with your teammate, with your players, then the guys are going to work harder. The kids will work harder. They'll do more. And they'll play hard for you.
Yeah.
Every Saturday.
Well, I think you've seen it too, and it was so fun this offseason to get the Team Out West documentary where you got a behind-the-scenes look week in and week out.
Yeah.
Because when you accumulate talent the way that Lanning has, and we know about the recruiting acumen that he brings, there's that notion of you're just throwing money and you're the next Texas A&M, and these are you're buying guys, and they're going to transfer. Look how busy the transfer portal is going to be in a year. And I thought that's what stood out the most. You hear stories, and you're obviously, you guys are both really close to the program. You know that the connection is a very big deal for them behind the scenes. But to get a behind-the-scenes look at that and what it's like in the hot seat and being in front of your teammates and holding each other accountable, it really resonated, I think, with a lot of fans of there is a deeper thing here than just simply buying players and bringing in talented guys. And he loves pointing out the fact that I think in his 2+ years here, they've only had one-ish starter that's transferred out. Dante Thornton's really the only guy who played significant minutes and then ended up leaving in the transfer portal. And that gets back to who he is as a coach, connecting with his players.
I think one thing that is upsetting a lot of people that love the game of college football is that it really has turned into a business, right? And that is something where we are in a brand new landscape of the world of college football with the transfer portal and NIL and all that goes along with it. But if you look at it as a business now, which businesses are the ones that are most successful? The ones that go out, they headhunt and get elite talent, and they retain elite talent.
Yeah.
If you look at it from a business world and a business structure, that is exactly how they've kind of built this program up.
Yeah.
And it is a different world that we're living in now. College football is so different from when you played, Anthony.
Night and day.
It's a different world than, when in 2000 when Oregon started the true ascension upwards.
Yes.
The way that Lanning has approached it and kind of look at the pieces and the people that he's connected himself to, right? Whether it was Todd Graham at Pitt, who ended up jumping and going to Arizona State and having some success there. He attached himself to Mike Norvell, whose team went undefeated last year in the ACC and got left out of the college football playoff. Attached himself to Nick Saban and Kirby Smart, two of the most successful coaches in college football. He has kind of taken pieces from all of those guys and learned from them.
That's right.
And built this, essentially a business plan for success.
What NIL deals was Anthony Newman getting back in the day?
Oh, man, I don't even talk about that because I'm so sad that
What would you have been?
Yeah, what
would have been the
Anthony
one?
been going after, Come on.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
I
It's
don't
such
know.
a different world now, man. But I think that's you guys have caught on what is making it so exciting is that
We know Dirt Years was Taylor's, by the way.
Taylor's
We know that would have been
Taylor's,
it.
Hey, Dirt here for Rennie's, maybe. You never know. Whatever your cup of tea might have been. But I think that's what makes it so exciting is that not only is the program humming at maybe the highest point it ever has, the Big Ten move, the expanded college football playoff, but it also feels like on top of that if there was a rule put in place that could help Oregon get to where they're going, that's the rule structure you have right now.
Yeah.
It really favors the Oregon and what they're able to do financially behind the scenes. And I have loved having an off season of really pissing a lot of people off. People don't like the fact that there's a team out west that's coming in and grabbing big-time recruits and competing nationally, and that's where Oregon is at right now. They have worked their way into one of the best programs in the country. We have so many things that I want to talk about over the next two and a half hours, but when I give you one thing right out of the gate before we go to our first break here, look, you're playing Idaho today. We remember how the Portland State game went last year. I think we all assume we know what the outcome of the game is going to be. Just what number one thing off the top of your head that you're excited to see this team takes the field, they play their first game. What's the top thing you're looking for that you're circling going into game one?
You know me, team defense.
Team defense.
I want to see them fly around together. They added a lot of new guys up front. The front seven is going to be very good. And, the back half of the group, that secondary. They got one new guy coming back. The rest of them are all new guys who are ballers that played somewhere else. I'm watching the defense. I want to see the defense.
That's one thing I want to talk to you about as the show goes on is the continuity that you have to build and the rapport you have to build in the secondary because that's really important. For me, I look at think about the titles of that team out west, right? Speed, depth, physicality. And those are the three things that I'm really looking for this year because we know the speed of guys like Tez Johnson, but there's new guys like Evan Stewart. We want to see the speed that's being brought in with those new guys in the secondary. Physicality up front. I mean, I want to see how that plays out. But the one thing I'm really looking forward to seeing today is that depth. Because of those that new rules and new world, you get 4 games as a freshman and you can still redshirt.
Yeah.
There are a lot of really talented guys that are only going to play in 3, maybe 4 games this year that we get to see hopefully in a day like today, and we get to see a lot of them because they may tuck them away and stash them as long as they possibly can moving forward.
Hold on to that red shirt if you can, but get him some snaps in the game. I think for me it is the number of the guy that I'm sitting next to. We got a new number 8, and he is the front runner for the Heisman Trophy. And they touched on that in the documentary. I love that moment where Lanning and him are conversing during one of their off-season meetings in Central Oregon, where he said, "Hey, Bo had 2 years to figure this out. He had time. You got 8 months to come in, command the locker room, command the offense." And so, look, the passing game should be fine today, but just what's the timing look like? How in sync does he appear to be? Just what's the fit look like? How different do they use him potentially as they've used Bo Nix here in the past? So seeing what Dylan Gabriel looks like, you got so used to Bo and how consistently good he was, and now you get another great veteran quarterback to plug and play.
He did so many things to acclimate himself really quickly here, too. Whether it was the Dimes camp where they went down to Grants Pass, and they went to Grants Pass High School and threw the ball as much as they could and bonded and did the jet boat stuff with his skill guys. You had to put everything in fast forward, and I think like the weird thing is this is his 3rd school. He got to experience this before at Oklahoma, and now he gets to do it again and maybe say, all right, what did and didn't work at Oklahoma, now I can do it again.
Let's
here
go
at
try
Oregon.
it again. One more time.
Refine it.
One more year of college football for Dylan Gabriel, and we're pumped to watch him in an Oregon uniform today. We are live down here at Autzen Stadium hanging out with you. It's going to be a hot one. Hope you're heading down. If you are, come stop by. We're right in front of the Mashosky Center. By the way, this year, thanks to our hardworking people behind the scenes, Jake, who's doing an awesome job, we're also on YouTube this year. So we got cameras set up. If you subscribe to the 1080 The Fan YouTube page, you can go watch us and listen to us if you want to see our ugly mugs while we preview the game and you're sitting at home getting ready for college football.
Let's be honest, watch us sweat today.
Yeah. We'll see how long we can stay in the shade for if we need to move the old tent. We're having a blast down here. It feels great to be back at Autzen Stadium. We're just getting started. We're on the air all the way until 2:30. Kickoff coming up at 4:30. We're back after this on the Ducks pregame show on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Russ here with traffic and weather. Drive time on I-5 getting longer as we speak, building steadily from about Boone's Ferry through Wilsonville and over the river and to the Donald Aurora exit. More slowing through Salem as well. The Bees are also at home, so there'll be a lot of extra cars on the road. No reports
Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly.
All right, back down here at Autzen Stadium, hanging out with you, Andy Johnson, Anthony Newman, Dusty Hare, all the way up until 2:30 this afternoon. Kickoff time is coming up 4:30. Oregon and Idaho, the first game of the 2024 campaign. We get to look at get our first look at these Ducks, and we get our first look at. I think we need to start here with Anthony Newman. We get our first look at some new/old uniforms. How are we feeling about the new threads this year? Because it kind of harkens back to the days a little bit of Anthony Newman, but also connecting to the current generation. How do we feel about it?
Well, I like it. You know, I have in my office, there's a jersey, my jersey, number 8, the original number 8. OG number 8. Yep. And it's that old jersey. It's the old green one. And so, hey, I love it. No, it looks good. It's making me happy. I'm thinking, okay, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how, you start looking at the colors of Oregon. How did silver, black, how did all those come into?
Don't worry about that, Anthony.
Okay.
Bring that up right now.
Don't talk about that.
No,
I might get in trouble for that. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I love the green. It's going to look fun. It's going to be good.
It is. It's so cool to see that Kelly green come back.
Yeah. It's true colors.
It pops with yellow. I mean, it's such a good look, and look, keep it simple, stupid.
The golden
kiss
arch,
rule.
The golden arch for McDonald's. Did they ever change the color?
Nope, same color always.
We know you know
it when you look at it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's no, we'll make it purple today.
Right? What?
Purple.
Huh? What are we doing here? That's what?
Yeah.
That's not a school color, man. Go next, baby. So, it is so funny when you bring up the silver thing. Somebody's gonna come take us out. But when they wear silver in a big game, I get a little bit of me dies inside every time I see some silver in a big game. So fingers crossed for big games this year that we get school colors. I can't wait to see the new uniforms. It is amazing too to look at this program and think about the fact that they are legitimately in the conversation around the country for having the best wide receiver group in all of college football. And it's one of those things that I think Troy Franklin kind of breaking through. I know he slipped a little bit in the NFL draft, and we'll see what he does teamed up with Bo there in Denver. But having that guy back, a true number one game-breaking wide receiver on the outside, and you lose him and you think, oh, what's that wide receiver group going to look like? You mentioned a name in the first segment, Dusty, and Evan Stewart. You got Tez Johnson back. Gary Bryant's a consistent guy. I know he's a little banged up in camp. Trayshawn Holden. And then pick your poison of any of the young guys who we might get an example of the depth today because they should probably play a lot of snaps. But just remarkable to think where they were, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago to having one of the best groups in the country and 2 five-star wide receivers committed for the upcoming class.
A lot of that has to do with recruiting and coaching, right? Look at what Junior Adams did with that receiver room up at the University of Washington before he came down here to Oregon. He is a phenomenal recruiter, but he also develops talent as well and gets guys in a position to be successful. You mentioned about 4 of them, but then you have guys like Justice Lowe, who's a local guy from Lake Oswego, who's a heady guy, and you can kind of see things have slowed down for him. Kyler Casper, who's tall, lanky receiver that can go up, high point the ball. You have Jurion Dickey, who changed his number from 99. Looks like a completely different player. Changed his body this offseason. Looks a little bit leaner and a little bit more physical as well, which got leaner but more physical, and he came in highly touted out of East Palo Alto, where Troy Franklin was from. I look at, you have legitimately 7 guys at receiver that you trust as pass catchers. The tight ends added to that is a completely different element because Terrence Ferguson, Patrick Herbert, Kenyon Sadiq, and Roger Saliapaga, who's a true freshman out of Orem, Utah.
He's a dude.
He has opened up a lot of eyes. We saw him a little bit in spring ball. He has continued to develop, and now you have 3 legitimate tight ends that are knowns of what you have in Ferg, Herbert, and Sadiq. You can have the ability, and hopefully we see Roger Saliapaga today a little bit more, but you can add that too, where you have 4 guys that you can trust in both the passing game and the run game. It's depth that we have not seen before, and it completely is a different look because you can go speed, size, you can go condensed formations, spread them out. You could see like a 3 tight end set shift out into empty.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Defend that.
Good luck with that. Well, and that's why I wanted to ask you, Q, because I'm both from the offense coordinator and defense coordinator angles. So from the offensive side, how challenging is it to try and keep everybody happy and get everybody the ball? Because that's a lot of dudes that you got on the outside. And then, but from the other side, when you're looking at it defensively, as Dusty just mentioned, so many different variations of that's what's going to make this offense so dynamic to try and slow down.
This game is all about matchups. How do you match up with teams? And if you have enough dudes that's going to create problems for a defense, right now, Oregon has a lot of receivers that when you put them on the field, there's not enough defensive players that can cover all three of those guys.
Yeah.
And then you add the tight ends. Okay, you got 3 tight ends that might be playing in the NFL in a couple of years. Well, we didn't talk about the running game. You always have to stop the running game. Right. But now, so if you don't stop the running game, then you're really in trouble. Then now we pull back, play action, and we throw the ball. And then I have a matchup. I have a receiver that's going against one of your linebackers or your strong safeties. That's not going to happen.
You know what the exciting part for me is, though? Remember what the big bugaboo used to be with Chip in the offense was? Play Stanford, they put you in a phone booth.
Yeah, yes.
And they just march down the field slow, and they
4
keep
yards at a time.
They keep your high-flying offense off the field.
Yeah.
When you have a roster in the way that they have built it, you have a counterpunch to any team's haymaker.
Yes.
And that is the sign of a great team, is you can match up with, all right, you're going to go play Iowa, right? Where Iowa's just going to want to punt the ball and play field position.
Win 13-9.
Yeah.
All right, build a roster that can play that. Okay, next week you got to go play Ohio State, right?
Yep.
They want to spread you out, and they want to beat you athlete for athlete. Okay, we can play that game too.
Yeah.
That is the biggest difference, is the stylistic changes that this team can adapt to. They can play just as many styles as uniform combinations that they have this year, which is totally different for Oregon.
Right.
It's what makes it so exciting, man. We get to see it for the first time today. Justice Lowe is a guy who has been turning heads in back-to-back camps, I would argue.
Yeah, yes.
And he's got the ability to maybe be a pop guy. And then Kenyon Sadiq, when you get compared but from your offensive coordinator to Brock Bowers, that's it's a pretty decent way to start the season.
People don't know about this kid.
No.
I'm telling you right now, he is, and I said this the other day, he may be the best tight end ever to come out of Oregon when he's done.
Yep.
The kid he's the real deal.
And he's going against his home state, Idaho. He's an
Yes,
Idaho
he is.
kid, number
Yes,
one player in
yes,
Idaho
yes.
coming out. He's going against his home state school.
There was pictures that came out of a scrimmage during spring ball where he hurdled a defender. It was the most incredible thing I've seen. Like, he caught the ball, turned upfield, and a defensive back had a great angle on him, and he was going to go right at his legs, because this dude has tree trunks for legs. He's going to run through an arm tackle from a DB. Guy goes low, he just goes bloop, right over the top of him.
And kept running.
Kept going, in stride.
That
Looked like Devin Allen.
I couldn't deal with that.
I can't wait to see.
I don't know. How do you deal
tight
with
ends
that?
jumping over you as a safety. I don't have to
Wait,
deal with that
250,
back in the day.
260, jumping over people.
Moving that guy.
Come on now.
Should be illegal, man. What are we doing here?
That was back when you could use your head, though, to take it.
That's true.
Yeah,
Go head down into somebody. They have so many weapons, and we cannot wait to see how they're going to use all of them. The first glimpse of it coming up 4 hours from now, as we're just getting started down here at Autzen Stadium. We'll dive in a little bit to the secondary, something Anthony Newman is very familiar with. A lot of new faces back there. How do they communicate? How do they adjust to the system? What about the offensive line? A starting guard is down. Who's going to get the go at center? A ton of things left to get to here over the next 2 hours. We'll also keep you up to date on everything going on in the college football world. Breaking news, Dabo and Clemson still suck. They're getting body bagged right now by Georgia, and we'll let you know all the scores and everything else going on in the world of college football. Just getting started live down here at Autzen Stadium. You're listening to 1080 The Fan.
Ducks game day traffic and Smoky reports on The Fan. Laurelhurst Market, and by Langdon Farms Golf Club. Now, here are your hosts, Andy Johnson, Dusty Hara, and former Ducks and NFL star Anthony Newman with Ducks Game Day on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
Welcome back in live at Autzen Stadium. 2 hours to go here on our pregame show. Also live today on YouTube. Shout out to everybody who's watching on YouTube. And that'll be a thing hopefully all season long. Jake made that happen today. We got the cameras all set up. We're hanging out here 4 hours away from the start of the 2024 season. Before I get to a couple of notes on Oregon in this upcoming game, because I do want to dive into the secondary a little bit with both you guys on not only what we've seen, but just the adjustment of so many new players. I did want to give you one final from earlier. The Penn State-West Virginia game is still in a delay. I'm assuming some sort of lightning rolling through Morgantown. Georgia-Clemson was the highest ranked matchup of the opening weekend of the season, number 1 versus number 14. That game has gone final in the Aflac kickoff, 34-3. Your final. The Georgia Bulldogs said, hey, Clemson, here's a woodshed. We're going to take you behind it.
Yeah, those neutral site games for Georgia and Atlanta are
real tough. Real tough.
Come on.
Hey, I'm just glad that we scored more. What was the – oh, no, we only scored 3 when we were there a couple years ago, too.
Yeah.
Darn it. All right, I was hoping we got one there on Dabo. So Georgia's done that to a team in Atlanta before. We know that. We were in Atlanta when that one happened.
Yeah.
And Clemson still not using the transfer portal and still not having an offense.
Yeah,
so,
if
well done,
only
Dabo.
there was a way that you could fill the holes on your roster.
I can't think of anything, though. I can't think of anything.
You have to adapt or you will die.
I mean, if there was
have
just
to.
one
Just
way.
one way that you could go get a proven player to come in and help your team.
Yeah.
Darn it. It's a
And
bummer
I
that
like
doesn't
when
exist.
you want to develop your players.
Of course.
I get that.
Of course.
But no, you have to adapt.
Speaking of the transfer portal, let's go there with Oregon because they were busy once again in the offseason. And Evan Stewart is probably the prime guy on the offensive side of the ball. Matthew Bedford out for a couple of weeks with an injury, it appears, so we'll see him eventually.
I'd say Dylan Gabriel, too.
But Dylan get touche. It's pretty important. Number one, leading guy for the Heisman. Defensively, you added a couple of stud defensive tackles to bolster where you lost some guys to the next level. And I think if we could all look at that team last year in the rearview mirror and say, what was your bugaboo when you played teams that could kind of spread you out and sling it? It was your secondary. And that's why that Washington game was such a tough matchup for them, and they lost both of them. What do? They go steal a Husky, and you get Jabbar Muhammad, you get Kobe Savage. How do we feel like Oregon has dressed the holes in the secondary? And then from a coaching angle, Q, like that's tough. You bring guys in, they're here in May and April, and you got to get them ready to go in September.
Now, the secondary is like offensive linemen. Okay, you have to have a rapport. You have to have chemistry. You have to have communication. Now, they got studs. You know, the only guy coming back in the secondary who had a lot of playing time was Tyson Johnson. Okay, everybody else is new.
Yeah.
You know,
and Dante Manning, too.
I'm
Dante
talking about the guys who are going to be mainly out there quite a bit because Dante got beat out. Unless he's not, I'm not sure. We'll find out today.
Yeah.
But when you get a new secondary, here's the deal. It's all about communication. You have to be able to talk. If you're a man team, meaning you play man concepts, and all of a sudden now you're covering a guy, he goes in motion, and you go with him, well, if you're not talking to the guy, to the safety next to you going, hey, do you have that guy? Are we bumping? Do I run through? Do I travel? What's the deal? That communication has to happen.
And the nonverbal communication of handing the guy off in zone coverage,
Thank
too.
you.
Knowing that trust level that you build of, hey, I'm a corner, we're playing quarters, that I know where my safety's going to be, how far I need to ride my guy over to hand him off and do my job.
Exactly. And people think, well, it's easy. Just take these guys who are good athletes and play man. Yes, but they have different formations, and they motion and shift and do everything else.
Yeah.
So it's going to change a little bit. So you have to understand that. Now, when you have dudes who can play those positions and play it well, it's a little easier.
Yeah.
But you still have to have communication. You still have to have a rapport. And that sometimes takes years. It takes time. You know, now you're throwing a whole secondary here together that all these guys have played at different spots, but yet they're all veteran players.
And
they play a lot of football.
And remember the D-boys, right? When there was this young group of secondary guys that everybody was very high on. They took their lumps early. Yeah. Because of that. You know, and because
even when you had Lenore and Graham, it was the same way starting as freshmen. They struggled, and then by the end, that was great.
Exactly right.
But the difference with the portal is you get guys that have experience. The game isn't moving too fast for them. That does slow down this growth process.
Correct.
And all offseason, all you keep hearing from guys like Kobe Savage and Cam Alexander, who've come in, Jabbar Muhammad, who've come in through the transfer portal, are, hey, Tysheem Johnson, Dante Manning, they just basically said, this is what we do. This is how we help you grow. And it's been a group effort to get everybody else up to speed.
Correct.
Well,
Which is different because they're all competing for same spots.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
It gets back to that culture we talked about at the get-go, right, of guys that are competing for the same spot but supporting each other as teammates, which you don't always get in every place, where it can turn into more of a rivalry. And I think to your point, Dusty, on back in the day having to play those young guys, I remember when Graham and Lenore and all the way back to the D-boys, you've had young corners and young safeties have to play. You know this, Anthony. There's a growing curve there.
Yes, there
it's
is.
going to take you a while, and that's where I think this year, sans a transfer portal, you might be looking at a true freshman in Aaron Flowers having to play big minutes. You might be looking at a freshman in Peyton Woodyard, who I believe redshirted last year, or you coming in as a freshman that might have to play big minutes. But now you don't need to do that because you can go address those needs. Those guys can get their snaps in games, or if somebody goes down, and you brought in Brandon Johnson and all these other names that we're mentioning of guys who know how to play the game, who are coming in with a lot of experience.
Hey, here's another thing. Okay, think about this. Now Oregon's in the Big Ten. Okay, if you're a vet and you're playing in the Pac-12 and you understand the receivers, you know the receivers in the Pac-12 that you're going against, that's easier.
Yep.
But realistically, everybody in the secondary, they're all on the same page because there's all these new receivers. No one's faced these teams. So they're all in the same boat,
That's a
which
good
is
point.
nice. So the experience Muhammad, Kobe Savage, those guys, that experience is going to help them in the secondary.
Exciting to see what that secondary looks like, man. They addressed it hard in the offseason, aggressive in the transfer portal, also recruiting at a very high level in that back end as Dan Lanning in his third year in Eugene. And we'll get a look at that defense for the first time today.
I love the compete or die mentality they have, where it is like you bring guys in to compete, and it's all for the pulling of the greater good. And you know that, hey, if this guy beats me, he beat me.
Kobe Bryant says, make practice harder than games. Yep. You compete in practice harder than you compete in a game.
Yep.
And if you have guys going against each other in practice because they want to get on the field, they want to play, I want to go to the next level, that's competition.
Yep.
And makes you better. Now the game, it's easier.
Yeah.
You guys are both high school coaches. I'm going to ask you about something on the practice note coming up next. We'll also go behind enemy lines and find out a little bit more about Idaho, a team that includes a lot of local kids who are playing against their in-state school, who didn't get an offer to come play at Oregon and ended up at the lower level, who are coming back to Eugene today. That is coming up next, but now it is time for Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food Order, or Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
Drive time on I-5 slowly getting longer and longer. The slowing is building steadily from about Boones Ferry through Wilsonville and over the river. A little slowing through Woodburn and getting pretty heavy through and south of Salem. The bees are home as well, so there will be a lot of cars on the road. Report of a smoky near the Charbonneau exit. It's 82 and sunny in Portland. Going to be hot with a high of 97 and very little wind. Currently 81 and partly cloudy in Eugene. Looks like around 91 at kickoff at Autzen with a slight breeze. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food.
Looking for an unforgettable escape this fall?
Welcome back in, live at Autzen Stadium, hanging out with you. We'll get to the Zoom Care injury report here in a moment. A couple of guys dinged up in fall camp, and we'll give you all the information that we have. The guessing game of Oregon injuries and how long guys will be out. Good luck.
Gonna let you know. It's not a lot of information.
Not a lot of info, but one key guy that's not playing, and we'll talk about how it impacts that positional group. Before we get to Behind Enemy Lines and Dan Lanning and what he had to say about game planning for Idaho, you guys are both coaches at the high school level. In fact, all of the Westland Lions are about to be here today. We got a Lion takeover underneath the one of the jumbotrons down here. So the phrase that gets thrown out a lot, and I want to help our listeners with this, whether you're listening on the way down or watching on YouTube. The phrase two-spot practices has been thrown out a ton throughout fall camp. And I think this gets back to the notion of depth. But just how important is that? What does that look like? And how does that impact a football team as they get ready for the start of the year?
It is. Okay, so instead of having ones and twos and in making a depth chart, basically what you're doing is you're just splitting it up and saying we mix it up day to day, and you're going, all right, we're going to find the combination that works for us. And we're going to let everybody compete. There's going to be no excuses for, oh, well, I run with the twos and I get the double team because this guy next to me, isn't as good. They will mix it up, and it is back and forth. Sometimes Dylan Gabriel is throwing to receivers that he may not see in a game come Big Ten play time. But you're also developing rapport with guys that eventually you will play against.
Yes.
Football is a war of attrition where guys are going to be coming, going into the lineup, out of the lineup, and when you have great depth, you got to get used to playing next to as many people as you possibly can.
Because this is a contact or collision sport, injuries happen, correct?
They do.
So you have to have guys who are second, third string, whatever, the ability to get in there and play with first-string guys and play with everybody. So that's the rapport. What Dan Lanning's talking about, everyone playing together, playing as a team. And, I think this is really important. When we talked about this earlier, there was a coaching clinic here, and Urban Meyer came in and talked to a lot of the high school coaches here. And he was talking about, when he was at Ohio State, it was all about family. It was all about bringing the kids together, understanding who they're playing next to. Not just his number, not just, I think this guy's a sophomore, freshman, his name. Who is this kid? Who is he all about? Because you're going to fight harder for the guy next to you. And then sometimes you think, okay, well, he's a third-string guy. I'm not going to really deal with him. I'll just deal with the first-string guys. No, you're dealing with the whole football team. And that's what Dan Lanning's doing, the same thing. He's creating that chemistry, that bonding that we all play together. We're one football team. Yeah, we might have some guys go in. Here's the deal. You might be first string, but you might get less snaps than the second string guy.
You might, yeah.
Because the way they rotate and the way they move around.
Well, do you remember that Georgia game that was miserable for all of us? But it was
think about it.
How many guys, and they just come at you in waves, and you're like, where did he come from? Why does he look like a mutant, right?
No,
that's the ultimate goal.
He's played 8 snaps the entire game, and he's a 5-star kid. What's going on here?
You have 3 defensive line positions, right? But you play 8 guys in it. And it's like relentlessly coming at you in waves. And that is the ultimate goal of where you want to be as a program, is building that depth and getting that buy-in.
Feels like Lanning is finally there, and we get a look at it for the first time today. Let's find out a little bit more about how Oregon got ready for Idaho. Dan Lanning talking Monday night at his weekly press conference about, kind of preparing, scouting, and game planning for the Vandals this week.
Yeah, we do a deep dive. I mean, we watch a lot of different film. They have a really dynamic returner that played at Weber State last year. That's been, really good. I think he has 5, kickoff returns for touchdowns. So he's had a lot of success, but that's what you do. You go look at other opponents and where are other places that those guys have been and what their film looks like and how it adds up and matches up with your team.
Well, talk about the difficulty game planning. Idaho's starting quarterback last year is now the starting quarterback at Oregon State. So if you watch Idaho film, it'll get you ready for week 3. But a lot of new faces. What stands out? I don't want to disrespect the Vandals too much, but shouldn't be too tough of a challenge for Oregon. But they do have some cool local stories of guys from the local high school area that are playing college ball up there.
Well, one I know very well.
What do we got?
3, but one I know very well. Mark Hamper. He's the slot receiver. He played for us at Westland. He was also our outside linebacker and played safety. This kid is a dude, and a lot of people thought he was going to play somewhere bigger than Idaho, but he wanted to stay kind of somewhat local.
Yeah, Northwest area.
And he's going to, the key is I want to see him matched up against these Oregon DBs. the type of player that he is. I think he could be this next level type of player. He's still young. He had a great fall camp there in Idaho. They love him. I think he won the offensive MVP. So it's going to be a nice matchup. There's two other young kids, two twins that we also had at Westland last year, the Donnerbergs. Now I don't think they're traveling, but I don't think they're playing. But it's kind of cool to see the local kids play on these different teams. And there's a couple from Lake Oswego.
Yeah, you got Jack Lane, who would be the starting quarterback. He has started 2 games. It was a redshirt sophomore. Actually, his redshirt year started the Idaho State game. Last year, as a redshirt freshman, started the Idaho State game as well. So Giovanni McCoy, who's playing for Oregon State now, this will be his first game ever playing against Idaho State because Jack Lane got the 2 starts against the Bengals. Yeah. But it's a young man who Gatorade Player of the Year out of LO, and he can sling it, man. He is athletic, too. He could play. He was a two-way player for most of his life, and now he comes in and gets the starting nod for the Idaho Vandals. And, look, you mentioned this with the secondary. You get a bunch of different formations. Idaho will try to formation you to death and give you a bunch of different looks and throw a lot at you. But it takes a signal caller who's a point guard distributing the ball all the way around. There's a lot of confidence in Jack Lane because of what he was able to do in 2 wins in back-to-back years. That, the first game as a redshirt freshman that he started his redshirt season, they needed to win that game to make the playoffs, and they did, and he got it in that win. They were so impressive in his start last year against Idaho State that it bumped them up to a top 4 seed in the FCS playoffs. Yeah. It's a guy they have a ton of confidence in and behind. And then his twin brother, Dylan Lane, is a linebacker
for a stud.
Yeah, linebacker for him. They got 9 guys from the state of Oregon
which
that
is
are
really
on this
cool.
team.
Oh, it is really cool.
Gives you something to keep an eye on today.
It's a nice little pipeline.
It totally is.
Yeah.
I remember talking about that last year when Portland State was in town. Just a lot of the kids who are really talented high school level players who go on to play college ball. This is a dream game. This is a Super Bowl for them, man. Having a chance to play in Autzen Stadium, your home state, if that's where you're from. So really cool stories for the Idaho Vandals today. We get a look at them. Let's go take a look at the ZoomCare injury report. We'll do that next. Is Oregon a little banged up in one positional group? How it will look today. We'll dive into that next, but now it is time for next Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your Game Day celebration in-store, online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
Drive time on I-5 getting to be about 30 minutes longer than normal. Pretty slow from Boones Ferry through Wilsonville and over the river. More slowing through Woodburn and getting pretty heavy through and south of Salem. The Beeves at home as well. Lots of extra cars on the road. Report of a smoky near the Charbonneau exit and again near exit 239. It's currently 83 and sunny in Portland. Going to be hot with a high of 97, very little wind. 83 and partly cloudy right now in Eugene. Mostly sunny skies around 91 at kickoff. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes. Brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day.
We should have our guys available. Right now, we're still waiting to see. Have some guys that still have to get healthy.
This is the ZoomCare Injury Report. A look at the injuries that could impact today's game and the key matchups in college football. Brought to you by ZoomCare. With more than 20 neighborhood clinics in Oregon and Southwest Washington, ZoomCare offers convenient access to same-day urgent and emergency care, plus an expanded primary care team, currently accepting new patients. Schedule or learn more at ZoomCare.com.
Well, we talked about the injuries that Oregon faces, and, it's a physical, long football season, and so guys are going to get banged up. So I'm sure this report will be filled throughout the course of the year. I think, a couple of guys banged up in the secondary, it sounds like. I think the one that everybody has their eye on is Matthew Bedford, the transfer offensive lineman who was slotted in to be one of your starting guards. And just what does that do for the rotation up front? Charlie Pickard maybe getting the start at center as Poncho, who we saw start the Fiesta Bowl, get the start at center. Kind of a shuffling of chairs. Dan Lanning has not named a starting center yet. Concern, gamesmanship, where are we at on Oregon's offensive line?
It's too early. and what I talked about earlier, the offensive line is like the secondary. Yeah. They have to find that connection of 4 guys, 5 guys, and build that rapport, build that chemistry, because the offensive line, I mean, they can touch each other and understand, hey, okay, you got that guy, I got this guy. They don't even have to talk to each other. They know each other. So right now, they're trying to feel that out a little bit, trying to figure out who can play this position, who can take care of business, and who can control the line of scrimmage with the guys next to him.
And make no mistake about this, it's not that Dan Lanning doesn't know who his starter is going to be.
Yeah,
he is not wanting to open that door, even if it is Idaho that they are playing, to admitting to anybody who's playing.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You'd be like, who's playing quarterback?
I don't know.
No, nobody's dumb enough to ask that question, but you're going to get the same answer.
Why are teams they're so like secret now? Everything is a secret, right?
I know. There's leagues that are trying to have, I think the SEC is close, if not already doing it, where they're mandating injury reports,
Yep, they are.
which the NFL does.
For
We're going to
conference
get there.
games only.
For conference games
Yeah.
only. I imagine that all of college football will get there. I tend to agree with you. We all seem to know who the starting center. You're not fooling anybody, but it's just coaches will do any little angle they can find.
But it's like, my kids like, well, why are we telling them, Coach, we're going to do this? Like, why do I tell them I'm blitzing? Because they can't stop us.
Yeah.
I don't care if they know what we're doing.
They know exactly, yeah.
They're not going to stop you. That happened to me when I was a rookie in the league playing against the 49ers. This offensive guard told me, hey, young punk, we're running your way. I was looking at my buddies okay, bring it. Next thing you know, he got 9 yards. Okay, like he told me again, hey, we're running your way
Here
again.
it comes.
I was like, okay, we can't stop it, but he's telling us where we're coming.
He wasn't wrong because, you're the safety, and he was like 9 yards. We're going right there.
Making contact 12 yards down the field, man. Come on now. It sounds like Charlie Pickard will be your starting center for the first couple weeks of the season. If you want it, cool. We're just talking with Idaho, the local rooting interest. Go look up Charlie Pickard's story, a guy who is a local kid. Jerry Allen is in the building. He's ready to go.
Here.
He's ready to go. He's fired up.
Pipes are warmed up already.
Are we all ready?
There he is.
There
There he is, my man.
The beautiful tones of Oregon Duck football that you will hear right here on the Fan in about 2 hours.
Look, looks like he's been lifting weights. Look at him. He's ready.
He's been doing this for
Instead of small shirt.
He's been doing this for an hour and a half now.
Just
He's
walking
going
around.
to have a hoarse voice when he gets up. He's going to start the game.
Come on.
He knows how
Come
special
on,
this
baby.
year is going to be. He knows.
Jerry's ready. He's ready to go. But go look at Charlie Pickard's story, a guy who grew up a Duck fan, grew up in the Portland area, and he tells stories about going to games, 2009, 2010, it makes me feel old thinking about, that was my childhood when he was going to games. But he grew
You're
up
a baby.
He was.
You're making me feel old.
Well, I was in college, and at least he was like 7 or 8 years old in your first Duck games
that's
kind
right.
of thing.
I know.
So
Yeah.
that makes me feel old, but I didn't mean to make you feel older than that. But it's just when you get those local stories, there's not a ton of them of high school kids from the state of Oregon who go on to play. That's why Herbert was so special.
Yeah.
That's why Anthony Newman was so special.
Alex
Pickard is another one of those guys.
Forsythe.
Alex Forsythe,
Oh,
exactly.
yeah, for sure.
And look, it made me feel old. Not just you, Anthony. I was talking to Kobe Savage, and Kobe was like, it's a dream to play for Oregon. Like, I always had an eye on Oregon. He goes, guys like DeAnthony Thomas are legends. And I was like, DeAnthony Thomas is still young in my mind.
He's younger than me, man. That's what? Okay, all right. That's how it works.
You want to meet my buddy who's a forefather of the Oregon program? His name's Anthony. He's here.
There's a few generations of Oregon football before DeAnthony Thomas, man. But we love them all. And Charlie Pickard will likely be your starting center today. But Dan Lanning, close to the vest. We'll have to wait and see until they kick off. Dave Luley, by the way, another guy who's a little banged up in camp, so we'll see how long he is going to be out. Bedford did return to practice this week, so fingers crossed that he is back in the starting lineup sooner rather than later. I hope you guys got your gambling tickets ready to go. Our Legends Casino Lock of the Week, that is coming up next. What do we like this weekend in college football across the slate? We'll dive into that coming up next. Ducks pregame show on 1080 The Fan.
Mommy, want to play a game with me?
Legends Casino Lock of the Week as Dusty Hera is battling a loose contact lens. You can get a first-hand look at that live on YouTube if you're watching today as he shoves a contact back into his eyeball. This is what the people come to YouTube for. This is why we needed to be on video this year. It's still on the arm. Don't lose that thing. You're the new sideline voice of Oregon Duck football, Dusty. We need those eyeballs working during the broadcast today, man. You're gonna have to help Jerry and Jorgie out sometimes. Who made that catch? You got to be down there with the working eyesight. Since he is working on that, I will start with my lock of the week. Now, my favorite bet in college is a game that is actually going on right now. That'd be technically cheating, so I'm not going to give that to you. Miami and Florida are playing. I love the under in that game. I bet that yesterday on the show if you were listening. It's 7-0 right now. Miami's got the early lead over Florida, so they just scored. Outside of that, I'm going to look at later on tonight. Arizona is at home against New Mexico. New Mexico was one of the teams that played in Week 0. They lost to an FCS team. I believe they blew a 17-point lead
in the fourth
Montana
quarter.
State in the fourth quarter.
Outscored 21-0 in the fourth quarter.
In the fourth quarter to blow that game to an FCS team. They are going on the road to Arizona. I think you get this new coach bump. I think you have a quarterback and wide receiver back for Arizona. I think they're ready to come out and say, hey, we can win a wide-open Big 12 conference. The line in that game tonight is 30, so it's a bit of a big spread. But I think New Mexico sucks. I think Arizona could sling it on anybody. I'm going to take Arizona as my lock of the week tonight against New Mexico.
You know what's a sneaky line? That Texas A&M -3 against Notre Dame.
Everybody loves A&M. Everybody is on A&M this week. It's gone up.
Everybody always loves A&M at the beginning of every year.
Sleep on Notre Dame.
What are we doing?
On Notre Dame, man.
Well, but Notre Dame early in the year is also the dicey proposition. So
they lost to Ohio State playing 10 guys on back-to-back goal line plays last year.
Don't worry about that.
But
they got
that was last year.
They got that quarterback Riley Leonard from Duke, who you want to talk about a battering ram.
You have a quarterback playing his old coach in that game, Mike Elko, the old coach at Duke, now the coach at A&M. Riley Leonard, the quarterback at Duke, now playing at Notre Dame. You got old coach, old quarterback playing against each other.
And Kobe Savage, Kansas State. His quarterback at Kansas State, Will Howard, is playing at Ohio State. So October 12th, he's like, get to go see my buddy.
Here we go, man.
I
This will be fun.
get to see the guy who I practiced against all the time, and it's a weird world that we live in.
It is very strange. Speaking of which, I believe the man who caught the touchdown for Miami on their opening touchdown of the season was our good friend Cam McCormick. Ninth year of college football. Cam McCormick.
Dr. McCormick.
Still putting tutties on the board down
how
in
many
Miami.
years?
This is his 9th year of college football. He was a Mark Helfrich recruit.
How does that happen?
Injuries
a lot
and
of
COVID
injuries.
year. And
a lot of injuries.
And a
COVID
no-counties year.
Hey, that's a young man that you just hope for the best because he has been through it, and all he's wanted to do is just have a year where he stays healthy and gets to experience a full season of college football.
I went to college for 9 years, man. I'm not going to blame him. You know,
some making some money on easy there.
Easy there, Tommy.
He's got a little job.
Some of us take the long route to get done. He's taking the long route down there, man.
I mean, 9 years, he could be a doctor.
He could. There you go. The Lock of the Week brought to you by Legends Casino in Toppenish. Legends Casino within winning distance. The Audi Wilsonville keys to the game as we reset things. Oregon and Idaho coming up right here on the Fan a little over 3 hours from now. That is next, but now it is time for Ducks Game Day Traffic and Weather. Every 10 minutes brought to you by Victorico's Mexican Food. Order Victorico's for your Game Day celebration in store or online for pickup or delivery at victoricos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
Drive time on I-5 is getting to be about 30 minutes longer than normal. Pretty slow from Boones Ferry through Wilsonville and over the river. More slowing through Woodburn and getting pretty heavy through and south of Salem. The Beeves at home as well, so there's a lot of cars on the road. Report of a smoking near the Charbonneau exit and again near exit 239. 83 and sunny right now in Portland. Going to be a hot one with a high of 97. 83 and partly cloudy in Eugene currently. Looks like mostly sunny skies and around 91 at kickoff. I'm Jeff Russ with Ducks Game Day Traffic and Weather every 10 minutes. Brought to you by Victorico's Mexican Food.
Drive home in the Audi SUV of your dreams this weekend at Audi Wilson.
To you on the Fan by Audi Wilsonville, offering unmatched service to help you find the perfect car. Online at AudiWilsonville.com.
All right, let's get to your keys to the game, and this is kind of a choose-your-own adventure. You can go any direction that you want to go because Oregon should have the advantages in almost every category at home today as they take on the Vandals from Idaho. But if I give you a key, one main thing that you're looking for, what's the first one that pops out in your mind, Anthony Newman?
The quarterback, Dylan Gabriel.
Play? Yep.
Yeah, he's the new quarterback. He has 1 year, like you said, to do it, to get it done, and let's see if he gets a fast start. And then, again, he has a supporting cast that's really good, but you're still looking at his play.
Yeah.
Stay healthy, play backups.
That's got to be the biggest one in game one. It would be great to be in a spot where, similar to Portland State, you basically say, all right, second half, if you want to give them that one drive to start the third quarter just to work on that halftime coming out of the locker room that you're going to have to do. And then after that, hey, 2s, 3s, 4s, freshmen, let's go, baby, play a lot of snaps.
I'll tell you what, though, it's like, Anthony, you said this, it's a collision sport. Right? They got guys that this is their Super Bowl right now. Yes. We talked about the 9 guys from the state of Oregon that play for Idaho. None of these guys were recruited by the University of Oregon to come and play football here. This is the biggest game that's on their schedule. Correct. They're going to be out for blood early in this game.
Yes.
And then there's also the element of, non-contact injuries can happen. Just staying healthy, getting to next week is the most important part.
That's what's scary. In these type of games. Now, again, you don't want to disrespect Idaho. Yeah,
no.
You got to play. You got to do what you got to do. It's a football game. That's why you play the game. But, you'd hate to see some star player get hurt in a game like this. Does it mean anything? Yes, it does mean a lot.
Yeah.
But still, you want to avoid injuries, and it's hard to do. I mean, guys are falling at your feet. You're getting twisted. Sometimes it's just by chance, some guy ran into your leg.
Right.
Yep.
So it's if you can stay healthy, and then the second thing I think is just make sure everybody's executing.
Yeah.
Do what you do. You're here to play the game of football. You understand the game. So now we're going to play a team that's not us.
Yeah.
Somebody else. Let's go execute. Let's go figure out what we can do with another team that's in our face.
You ready for the coach speak? Week 1, alignment and assignment. Right? Alignment and assignment. Get lined up right. Do your job.
Yes.
And then
no procedural penalties.
Procedural penalties will drive a coach crazy.
Rears its ugly head in week 1, and they go through as many scrimmages as they can to clean that stuff up. I'm going to go with a phrase of stand out. I think the thing that I love about these games, and nationally, nobody's going to care about this. This is more for just the fans, and that's probably who's listening, right? I love watching these games from start to finish because you get to see so many guys play. And so that to me is like, who's going to be who are we talking about next weekend as we're getting ready for Boise State? What freshman DB? What young defensive lineman? Is it Kenyon Sadiq who has 3 touchdowns today? Is it one of your young running backs? Does Jaden Lamar go off for 150 yards? Which one of those guys stands out? To me, that's my key because the depth is the strongest maybe it's ever been inside this program, and I can't wait to watch all those young guys play, especially in the second half. But please, first and foremost, stay healthy. Let's get through it and get to Boise State next week. Audi Wilsonville offers unmatched service to help you find the perfect car online at AudiWilsonville.com. We will take a look. I don't know if you guys know this. Oregon's playing in a new conference this year.
What?
They are.
What?
Yeah, they are.
Wait.
I actually got to go take my picture of the field because I was here for the Civil War. I walked out there and I took my Pac-12 picture logo on the field because this is the last game they're ever playing in the Pac-12.
Did you get it?
I haven't got down there yet. I need to go down there as soon as we're done. So I'll go walk down there and get my photo and get ready to go.
Big Ten has mandated benches too.
Oh,
there's Big Ten benches.
We got Big Ten benches.
Big Ten benches, and they got awnings over the top of them.
Oh, this is official now.
Heaters, coolers.
We're a big deal now. We're a big boy now. Is that what you're telling me? So speaking of that, let's take a look at the Big Ten Conference. What do we expect? Oregon and Ohio State, the 2 front runners at the get-go. Penn State is playing a game. We'll let you know how everybody else in the conference looks. So we'll dive into that, a little Big Ten preview. That is next, but now it is time for Ducks Game Day Traffic and Weather. Every 10 minutes brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com. Here is Jeff Rust.
Drive time on I-5 getting to be about 40 minutes longer than normal. Pretty slow from Boones Ferry through Wilsonville and over the river. More slowing through Woodburn and pretty heavy through and south of Salem. The Beeves at home as well. A lot of extra cars on the road. Report of a smoking near the Charbonneau exit and again near exit 239. It is 86 and sunny in Portland. Going to be hot. High of 97 with very little wind. Currently 83 and partly cloudy in Eugene. Around 91 at kickoff. I'm Jeff Rust with the Ducks Game Day Traffic and Weather every 10 minutes brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food.
It's time to take a look at this big, beautiful coast-to-coast conference.
4 Big Ten teams, they will benefit. I can't wait for it.
This is the Big Ten Preview. A look at the conference schedule on the Odyssey app. And your home for Oregon Ducks football. 1080 The Fan.
A lot of new things for the college football season this year as the Westland Lions are here. Sam, what's up? Getting ready to go. A big year for them.
100 deep of the Westland Lions, and Anthony's holding court right now.
I think when I played PIL high school football, we were lucky to have like 27 kids on a team, so they got a few more numbers on us this year.
That's a big difference between the PIL and
a few more
the TRL.
Kids. A little bit different, man. A little bit different. Very exciting, man. They play their first game next week in Idaho. Anthony's all fired up. They're trying to bring another state title home. The West Lions. The Westland Lions are here, man.
They're here. I love seeing the kids. I love seeing their faces. And them come watch Oregon football.
Yes.
That's
you may or may not have a Husky commit on your team right now. Let's start working on them. It starts early. You got to get them going. Get them shouting at the end of the third quarter.
Yes, for sure.
Get it into the blood,
seeing all
man.
the good stuff. Oh, yeah. This is great, though. This is great.
Big Ten season, man. New and interesting opponents. Let me ask you guys this. Now, I know you guys are a little focused on coaching on Thursdays and Friday nights, but I've been sitting around watching. Thursday night you had Minnesota play. They lost on a last-second field goal. They didn't miss it, or they didn't make it, and then their firework guy accidentally lit off the fireworks because he thought the kick was in. That was a bit of an error there. You don't want to do that. Do we care about other Big Ten teams yet? Because I found myself watching that game, and I'm like, I'm supposed to care, but I don't know if I care about Minnesota yet.
There's only about 20 seconds that I have to say this, but upset alert in the shoe. Ohio State's losing to Akron 3-0 with the 3.5 to go. I mean, they're about to score, and this is going to be a rout, but we got a little bit of an upset.
Remember that at the end of the show when it's 49.
That
one moment. It's always fun when you look at it.
Frozen in time.
Yes.
But no, I am starting to care about Big Ten football, and it's a weird thing to look at Minnesota and be like, I need to keep an eye on what they're doing. They don't play them this year, but down the road.
But isn't it hard?
It is strange.
Yeah.
I mean,
because there used to be a care when you would watch Arizona State, Utah. There'd be like, I'd be genuinely interested in how that game was going to go. I'm just not quite. I know I will get there. Just week one, I'm not quite there yet.
Figure out Illinois. What?
I just can't figure out.
Like, wait, what?
I can't figure out who plays offense, who plays defense. Like, I don't know stylistically. There's so much.
Well, then who's going to be that team that ends up being the thorn in your side too? Because there's always that team. You're like, why do we struggle with that? Whether it was 3-9 Stanford or Washington State and Pullman. Like, why
going
can't
to
we
the
win
desert in November.
Night game in Tempe.
You're just like, why are we doing this?
And we know all those things, but this is all new to us. They're like, okay, going to Wisconsin in November.
Speaking of struggling, they struggled last night.
They did.
Yeah, they had to eke out a win at home against Western Michigan. They were trailing in the fourth quarter of that game in their own building.
This is going to be interesting.
One game of note right now that's going on, Penn State, West Virginia. They are still in a delay. I don't know, bad weather delay. That's been halftime for a while. 20-6 was your halftime score. Penn State scored. They had about 20 seconds left in the half. They got the ball back and went 80 yards in 20 seconds and scored. So they were up 20-6 at the half. Ohio State, to Dusty's point, is now in the lead, 7-3. They just scored their touchdown against Akron. Iowa scored 40 on Illinois State. 40-0. Maryland beat UConn earlier today, 50-7. Purdue beat Indiana State, the Fighting Larry Birds, 49-0.
Can I put an asterisk next to that 49 or 40 points that Iowa put up?
Yeah.
21 in the fourth quarter. This is what an FBS program with 23 more scholarships should do to an FCS team.
It was 6-0 at halftime.
6-0 at halftime.
And it took until 2 minutes left in the first half for Iowa to surpass 100 yards of offense.
So Iowa is still Iowa.
That's Iowa.
We have learned that Iowa is not on the schedule this year. Michigan is. They play later tonight against Fresno State. A lot of new faces for the Wolverines this year. 4:30 on NBC. And then our good friends, UCLA and Washington, both make their Big Ten debuts. UCLA is at Hawaii. 4:30 on CBS, and then Washington gets an 8 o'clock kickoff tonight at home in Seattle against the Fighting Damian Lillards. Weber State is in town to take on the Huskies. USC plays their first game tomorrow night, 4:30 on ABC. Michigan State, by the way, a familiar face coaching them, Jonathan Smith. They eked out a win last night against FAU.
And Aiden Childs there was a ton of hype around him as a redshirt last year down at Oregon State. He followed Jonathan Smith over to Michigan State. A rough outing for young Aiden Childs. I think he only completed completed, I think, half of his passes.
Threw
Or
a
10 of
pick on
20.
his first play of the game.
10 of 24
Yeah.
for 114 yards and 2 picks.
Yeah.
It was a tough outing for Aiden Childs, but at Jonathan Smith, we know this. He will coach his guys up. Michigan State may not be there yet, but he always gets them to a point of being competitive.
Yeah.
Social media is never a good place to go, but if you were a Michigan State fan or an Oregon State fan wanting to laugh at Jonathan Smith for barely beating FAU, Michigan State Twitter was not happy with him last night. They had the ball. I was watching that game. It was 16-10 about 9 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and he had a chance to kick field goal, go up by 9. FAU literally could not throw the football the entire game. He elected to go for it. They got stuffed on fourth down. Instead of making it a 2-possession game, gave it back to FAU, and then you're in this like dogfight all the way down to the end where they finally got to stop and won. But Michigan State fan, that's the danger of taking a job, right? When you're at Oregon State, you can coach there as long as you want. They're not going to fire you, dude. You brought them from the gutter. Now you're going someplace. You better win. You're not the chosen son. You're not the old quarterback who won big games back in the day.
The leading passer in that game was Cam Fancher
for FAU.
Yep. 12 of 25.
He's terrible.
116 yards,
Horrible.
a touchdown, and 2 picks.
That game set offensive football back by about 25 years. So I watched that one
It
last night.
inspired Iowa
I
today.
don't know if he's going to be there for a long time, though, Jonathan Smith.
We'll
I'm just
see,
giving you a heads up.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
We'll keep an eye on that one.
That's interesting.
They are going to be here at Autzen Stadium on October 4th. That is a Friday night home game here for the Ducks. There's a look at the Big Ten. Oregon, Ohio State, the two heavy favorites. We'll let you know as the show goes on how Ohio State does. They're playing Akron with a 7-3 lead early there in the shoe. And that game, of course, has been circled on everybody's calendar for as long as you could circle calendars when that schedule was announced, October 12th, here at Autzen Stadium. We'll hear from Dan Lanning coming up next. The Oregon Duck coach joins Isaac and Suk every single Thursday at 4 o'clock. What did he say leading into this game and this season? Find out next. Ducks pregame show live at Autzen Stadium on 1080 The Fan.
Give me the first one. I don't know. I mean, it could be the second one. Well done. Somebody's a great actor. Yeah, give me the second one. It's the second one.
No, I think that's right.
Yeah, second one.
It is number 2. That is correct.
We got you on the first one. That was me doing an impression of Wilson Love after I watched.
Yeah, that guy's an animal.
Yeah, there's a lot. Walk around our building, you'll see a lot of impressions of Wilson. Man, he is such a joy to work around and does an unbelievable job with our guys.
Oregon coach Dan Lanning, he'll be with us here on The Fan every Thursday at 4. Thanks, Coach. Good luck on Saturday.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
All right, we'll talk to you again next week.
Hey, Dusty here for Victorico's Mexican Food to tell you about one of their new menu items, Quesabirria. Tacos filled with birria-style beef and cheese with a side of birria sauce for dipping. Pick up your favorites in-store or online at victoricos.com.
For over 45 years, Pacific Office Automation has been providing winning strategies to help businesses come out on top. That's why the Oregon Ducks choose Pacific Office Automation as their office technology partner. If you run a business and want to find out how to improve your business processes and costs, contact us today to receive a free technology assessment. Whether it's managed print services, IT services, or data security, Pacific Office Automation has your game plan. Pacific Office Automation. Problem solved.
From the mind of a 2-foot-tall talking spokes puppet comes this year's biggest challenge. It's time for Bob's Dare to Compare, the hottest game show on TV that asks, what happens when you compare Bob's to the competition? You get style. You get quality. You get beeps and boops and dings and whomps. And thousands of dollars in savings. Everyone's a winner when you dare to compare with Bob's Discount Furniture. Shop in store or at mybobs.com to play now.
Football season is just getting started, and maybe now is a good time to get that new TV you've been thinking about. This time, why not get a really good TV, like a Samsung, LG, or Sony? You know they're the top-rated sets, but their prices are higher. Well, that depends on where you shop. If you could get a cash gift card or hundreds of dollars for your old TV, would that make a difference? Well, you can if you shop at Video Only. Why buy online or at the club if you can get a better deal at Video Only?
Is your roof weather ready? Peace of mind doesn't have to be expensive. In fact, it's free. Just call Sawtooth Roofing at 503-258-8017 or go to sawtoothroofing.com to schedule your free roof inspection today. At Sawtooth Roofing, our most important roof is yours.
Let's find out who the next Ducks will be.
Oregon has really put their hooks in the Northwest. Suddenly, this class looks like it could be very, very special.
It's time for Recruiting with Andrew Nemick, the Ducks Game Day edition on 1080 The Fan.
Prep Red Zone's Jordan Johnson joining me this show as we talk about Oregon high school football, breaking it down. We talked about the state title contenders. It's a lot of the usual suspects: Central Catholic, West Lynn, Lake Oswego, Lake Ridge, Mountainside, Jesuit, all with potential as we transition to all-state team, particularly the all-state offense. Jordan, I got to be honest, I went into this year a little concerned about the depth, especially with the senior class, but some of the underclassmen have really risen up, and I actually think this is a pretty good group. I want to start with the offensive line. Really the two big names that stand out to everybody, and I'll have you kind of go over the whole list, but really the two big names on your first team all-state offense, Zach Stasowski, who just flipped his commitment from Minnesota to Washington. Steve Pine has picked out like 3 or 4 kids in all the time I've known him and said, that kid's going to play in the NFL. And it was like Brady Breeze and Ryan Nall. So he's pretty good at it. He thinks Zach Stasowski's an NFL guy. So no surprise there. And Jake Normoyle, a commitment of the Oregon State Beavers, really a steal for them. I think Jake Normoyle with the big senior year, he was my offensive lineman of the year last year as a junior. I think with a big senior year, we could see some of those, former big, now Big 10, Big 12 power teams come after him. He's really talented. Looks like a pretty good O-line group, though.
Yeah, I mean, I did that top 250 for the class of 2025, and Zach Stastowski was my number 1, and Jake Normoyle was my number 2. So the top 2 kids I had were both offensive linemen. Just to put that into perspective, how talented I think they are. agree with Coach Pine with Zach and then Jake Normoyle. I think, especially with the way things are now on the recruiting front, I don't even know if Oregon State realizes what they got in Jake Normoyle. Like, I think this kid is going to be a three-year all-conference starter and play in the league for a little bit or something like that. He's going to be really, really good. I'm a big advocate of Jake Normoyle, and even had him ahead of his teammate Barry Noyoni in the rankings. I had Barron at 3. So I really like that 1-2 punch there. There's a couple other kids on the line, underclassman Aiden Jakubaskis out of Mountainside and 6'6" tackle Joe Weiler out of Lake Ridge. Both of those kids, look good. And speaking of the PIL, Brady Holland, he was the one PIL kid that I had on the offense. So it's worth noting he got an Air Force offer. It's really, really hard to get recruited out of the PIL for obvious reasons, and he managed to do so. So that line group looks to be pretty good.
We saved the most notable position for last. I don't know if it's the best because we mentioned tight end, but the quarterback position. And you've got on your first and second team 4 guys that I think are really the 4 names to focus on. On your second team, Cade Mitchell from Mountainside, a lot of people feeling like he took a huge leap this offseason, and you will find believers in him who say he's about to absolutely break out this fall. Avery Durdahl at Nelson High School. Nelson, a new school after splitting from Clackamas, and they look the part. They have a couple of players that are big-time talents. Durdahl will be starting for his 4th year. He started as a freshman, took a pounding his first year when they played Clackamas, but as he's grown and as that Nelson program's grown, the balance of power has really shifted. Nelson looks great. And then your first team quarterbacks are Baird Gilroy out of West Lynn and Nolan Keeney out of Tualatin. Nolan Keeney in 7 games was absolutely masterful last season during the regular season before getting hurt. Baird Gilroy, he only played the first 2 quarters of most of their games because West Lynn beat everybody by 5-6 touchdowns, but his numbers still ended up being good. I have a really hard time sorting those 4 out, Jordan, and I'll tell you why. I think there's a good possibility West Lynn in particular, but Tualatin as well, could blow some opponents out to the point those guys are sitting, whereas Durdahl and Cade Mitchell need to play 4 quarters. And how do you splice up who's first team, second team there?
I mean, great point. I thought the same thing last year, and then Baird and Nolan both put up ridiculous numbers, only playing a half a game. So it was like, okay. But yeah, with Nolan, I mean, this dude hit on 73% of his passes, 2,900 yards in 7 games with 28 TDs, playing in the top conference in the state, and that includes the playoffs. So he came back from that broken collarbone and was just like literally the best stat line in the state, bar none. So Nolan Keeney had a phenomenal offseason. BYU got a good one with him. I think Baird has really got, if I'm guessing, he's got something he wants to prove. Losing to Central's D was just everywhere. I mean, they shut down West Lynn, and I mean, I didn't see that coming. And they Baird, I think, is really going to show up this season as good as he was last year. With 3,300 yards, I think it was like 28 passing TDs, 5 rushing TDs. Had a great year. Unanimous first team all TRL, but did he get that state title? So I expect him to really show out. And Cade Mitchell, I'm glad you brought him up. He's the fastest rising recruit in the state of Oregon that I have. I think when all is said and done, he has the potential of being number 1 or 2. That's how good he has. Go watch his film. He only got a couple games worth of film last year, but I mean, I think it speaks for itself. So Cade Mitchell, 6'3", 200 pounds, paying for Keenan Lowe over there at Mountainside with all these weapons. I think he's a guy we're going to hear a ton about. And obviously with Avery Durdahl being a 4-year starter, there's not very many people that start for 4 years at quarterback. I mean, this dude is going to hold every Nelson record, even though it's a new school, for probably a long time at the quarterback spot.
Jordan Johnson from Prep Red Zone. Thank you, man. Where can we find your work? We got to get you out of here, and we got to get out of here.
Yeah, prepredzone.com, and I always appreciate you, man.
He's at JordanJ_ on Twitter /X.
Looking at about 45 extra minutes or so on your way to Autzen. Big delay from about Boone's Ferry through Wilsonville and over the river. Again, approaching and through the Donald Aurora exit. And from Salem almost all the way to Albany. The Beeves also at home, so there's a lot of extra cars on the road. Now we'll go to weather. 86 and sunny in Portland. Going to be a hot one. High of 97. Very little wind. Currently 85. Partly cloudy in Eugene. Look for a temperature of around 91 at kickoff. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes. Brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's Mexican Food for your game day celebration in store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com.
Ducks Game Day continues.
Back to throw. Ducks come with pressure. Don't get to him. Throw is intercepted. Picked off.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day, an insider's preview of today's game between the Oregon Ducks and the Idaho Vandals. Oregon Ducks football on 1080 The Fan is brought to you by Coors Light, Pacific Office Automation, Mods BDX, Victor Rico's Mexican Food, Legends Casino Hotel in Toppenish, by Zoom Care, Bellagio's Pizza, Multnomah County Behavioral Health Division, Audi Wilsonville, Laurelhurst Market, and by Langdon Farms Golf Club. Now, here are your hosts, Andy Johnson, Dusty Hara, and former Ducks and NFL star Anthony Newman with Ducks Game Day on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
Welcome back in hour number 2 of the Oregon Duck pregame show live down here at Autzen Stadium. We are about 3 hours away from kickoff between Oregon and Idaho and the official beginning of the 2024 campaign. The gates are open. People are streaming into the Mashowski Center right next to us. So if you're on your way down, hope you make it here soon and come say what's up. We'll be on the air for another hour. Again, kickoff coming up in 3 hours. We will give you a look at the scores around the country coming up here in a matter of moments. I'll let you know how everybody is playing early on. A couple of interesting games of note here on this week 1 Saturday. Boys, we have talked for the last hour. Andy Johnson, Anthony Newman, Dusty Hara hanging out with you for the last hour about many different things on this Oregon team. I think there's one group that maybe we haven't got to yet that could be the best it's ever been for this program, and that is with the addition of guys in the portal and the way that they have recruited and attacked. And I don't know if Oregon has ever had the size, strength, and depth that they do on the defensive line that they do coming into this season. And I mentioned a few segments ago, kind of looking forward to seeing some of these young guys. A lot of freshmen on the interior defensive line. We saw some of those young edge rushers have an immediate impact. You plugged and played 2 transfer portal guys as defensive tackles. I don't know if they have ever been bigger, stronger, and deeper on the defensive line, and that's where I think we all know if Oregon wants to get to where they ultimately want to go as a program, you have to be there on the defensive line. Feels like Lanning finally has his group there.
Well, let's start with the number 1 guy, Jordan Birch.
Yep.
I mean, everybody thought he was going, right? You thought he was going to the NFL. And I keep saying this. I want somebody to come on the sideline and look at this man in person. He looks like Tarzan.
Yep.
He looks the part. He is built. And now also when you can you play this game? Yeah, I can play a little bit. He's explosive. He's going to tear. So everybody's got to be looking at him. Everybody's going to be dealing with him as an edge rusher, and they can move him around because he's so big. He can play inside. He can play outside. That's where it starts, and it goes from there. And when you have 8 defensive linemen, and you can rotate these guys, you have 5 rushers, guys, edge rushers who are coming off the edge. It makes a huge difference in your defense and the type of defense that you can play. Yep. Now we can go man, we can go zone, we can blitz. Now, show pressure and bounce back into zone. It's crazy.
They've really challenged Birch, by the way, too, to be that guy this year. They think that he has the ability to be a first-round NFL draft pick caliber player.
Well, in that team out west, they did the Wilson Love episode and the physicality and body transformations of guys. And I just kept waiting for them to highlight Jordan Birch. I think they're hiding him because body transformation, too. Like, he is chiseled out of stone now, and he is a menace on the outside. But what I'm excited to see is the group of youngsters that we saw last year, where we saw 4 freshmen get significant run, and go through a little bit of growing pains at times.
Yeah.
And there was some steps forward and then a step back, whether it was Mateo Uyunglele, Tatum Tuioti,
Yes.
who got significant run on the outside, Blake Purchase, who is an absolute giant. He's going to look like the Jolly Green Giant out there in these all-green uniforms today.
Right.
And then Marion Winston, a guy that you know very well.
Oh, yes.
Central
Yes.
Catholic and
Yes.
his brother Lamar. We saw those guys grow so much last year as true freshmen and redshirt freshmen. Now you have another year under your belt, and you have a little bit of that experience, and the game starts slowing down a little bit more for you.
Right.
And as that happens, now we can see those guys go from, all right, all we can do with these guys is put them on the edge, pin their ears back, and let them go.
Yeah.
Now we can start seeing them drop into coverage,
Yes.
help out other guys around them, because now they have a greater sense and understanding of what the concept of their defense is and what they need to take away.
And then also it goes back now. You have outside guys. You got to also have an inside guy.
You do.
And Derek Harm is the guy that I'm looking at, the new guy.
Michigan State.
Yes, a big guy who can move. And you always
6'5",
want
315.
You always want a big guy who can move, who can demand the double team. The guard and tackle, the tackles and the guards, trying to block one guy. When you have that, then Jordan Birch is coming off the edge one-on-one, solo.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Jamari Caldwell as well.
Oh, yeah,
Houston
yeah,
transfer.
yeah,
They get
right.
two of those
Yeah.
guys.
Yep.
And it's amazing that we sit there, we talk about, hey, then what's new and sexy is the guys out of the transfer portal, right? Well, you still have Keon Ware Hudson, who
Yes.
has grown as a player in
Yep.
this system
Yep.
and kind of stuck through it and has been kind of
Yep.
chipping away, and now it's his time to shine too.
Yeah.
Oh, and then you add into the mix, too, the way they've recruited on the defensive line. Aiden Breland, one of the highest-rated defensive line commits in the country. Mikael Gardner, a highly touted kid. Terrence Green, just a monster from the state of Texas, 6'5", 300-plus pounds. Amari Washington, another guy. So you have all these young pieces that you can kind of come at teams in waves, and it gets
Yeah.
back to that depth part that we have talked about the entire show, that it felt like at times when Oregon would play in big games against big teams, you would have 2 or 3 stud defensive linemen, and they'd have to play 85% of the snaps.
That's right.
You get to the fourth quarter, and these dudes are gas. Lanning wants to follow that NFL mindset of, you're out there for 2 plays, give me 100%, go sit for 2 plays. Okay, now come at teams in waves, and maybe they got the bodies to do it this year.
Let's go back in the past and look at the old USC. They were loaded with players. They would stockpile their players. The third-string guy, it might be a first-round draft pick in the draft. I mean, Oregon is the same way. They have so many guys that they can rotate. And again, it's about competition.
And
everybody's trying to stay on the field, right? I want to be on the field. I don't want to be on the sidelines.
Right.
I
I'm
want
going
to
to go win my rep. I want to get above
exactly.
you.
Exactly.
It's why a guy like Nick Saban is stepping away from the game. And we talked about this in the first hour, is that it's harder and harder to hoard that talent.
Right.
Like Nick Saban and Kirby Smart and Dabo Swinney used to do, is just you get them in, they have nowhere to go, you can keep them forever. And when we talked about it in that first hour, it was Lanning and the approach of Oregon now is to, how do we retain these guys, keep them here, and have them trust that process of, look, your stats won't matter. Your tape will. And that's what will get you to the next level. It's not that you had 15 and a half sacks. No, it's that you were as disruptive as you could possibly be in the time that you were there, because that's what the NFL wants.
Exactly.
We always say, like, guys in the NFL, like, where'd this guy come from, right?
Yes.
Well, no, it's because he was wildly productive at what he did, and the NFL said, we can maximize that.
Right.
We can take that to the next level. And a lot of credit on this goes to Mario Cristobal for adding to the physicality of this program. But where the area that he missed that Lanning has taken it to the next level on steroids is that on the defensive line. And the way he's recruited and understood, that is so important. And we've seen them from year 1 to year 2 to year 3 get exponentially better. I can't wait to see that group get after it today, a stud defensive line group here in Eugene. Let's take a look at some scores around the country. Any upsets brewing, we'll let you know. How's the Miami-Florida game going? We'll give you the score update on that. The Ducks Game Day scoreboard coming up next. Ducks pregame show right here on 1080 The Fan.
Portland Perks.
Take it.
Oregon.
It's time for the Ducks Game Day Scoreboard with previews and scores from around the country on your home for Oregon Ducks football, the Odyssey app, and 1080 The Fan.
All right, coming up in a moment, we'll take a look at maybe the most underrated position group that Oregon has coming into this season, and we'll let you know what group that is, and we'll dive into that here in a moment. But it is time for the Game Day Scoreboard. Let's take a look around the country, boys, see what's going on. Penn State, West Virginia finally picked back up. Penn State's added another touchdown. Have they figured out offensive football? Do they know how to throw the ball at Penn State? At 27-6 right now, you're scoring the third quarter. Are we scared of Drew Aller and the Penn State passing attack?
Who are they playing?
West Virginia.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, West Virginia.
Yeah, again, who are we playing?
This is the thing about Penn State is that they are really good against bad and good teams. Against the great
Michigan, Ohio
and
State,
elite
they can't do
teams,
it.
That's where they run into the wall.
Yeah.
They got a very. I'll circle Penn State now because they got a very manageable schedule. They don't play Michigan, I believe, this year, and they do not play Oregon. Oregon and Penn State are not on the schedule. I believe they get Washington. I believe they get USC, and then they get Ohio State at home. So just circle.
It's tough to play there.
It's tough to play there.
Yeah, it's tough
Absolutely.
To play there.
Speaking of Ohio State, we all know that this is likely going to end up being a blowout. 10-3 your score about halfway through the second quarter. Should be noted that I have brought this up all off season that Ohio State has the best roster in college football, arguably. That team is absolutely loaded. I think they have the same question mark this year that they had last year. Last year they did not have a dynamic quarterback. I don't think they have one this year either. Will Howard is a good athlete, and he can run.
Yeah.
Go to look at his passing numbers at Kansas State. He's not a prolific thrower of the football.
True.
Now, Jeremiah Smith's got to help, number one player in the country. That dude's a stud. He's already caught a touchdown pass. But Will Howard, early in his first game for Ohio State, 6-16 for 70 yards.
Ooh.
So just not quite clicking against Akron. Circle that one. We'll come back to it later as the season goes on. Miami, Florida, I know everybody wants to know how that game's going to go. Miami's got a 10-3 lead on Florida with 8 minutes to go in the first half. And then a couple of finals from earlier. Georgia did absolutely boat race Clemson, pulled away late. 34-3 was the final. The only other games going on right now, Texas got a 17-0 lead over Colorado State. And one of those that many people circled and thought maybe an upset, Oklahoma State with a nice lead over South Dakota State. I did want to check quickly, in case we got any Pac-2 bros driving down. Washington State with a 42-10 lead on Portland State in the first half up in Pullman. So the Cougs bringing a little bit of heat in their opening game. John Mateer, their new starting quarterback, has 4 tutties on 8 completions in the first half of that game.
And next week's opponent, Boise State, up 14-0 on Georgia Southern.
There you go. That's a game that a lot of people like Georgia Southern to cover that spread. I don't know anything about Georgia Southern, but that was kind of a trendy gambling pick this week.
Clay Helton.
That's right.
Clay Helton, Georgia Southern.
Fighting Clay Helton. So there is a look at your scores around the country. We will keep you up to date. Looks like Penn State will be just fine. Ohio State clunky. We'll let you know how that goes in the final 45 minutes of our show here. And then Miami and Florida again, a 10-3 game there down in Gainesville. Miami has the ball on their own 42-yard line. So that's where we're at.
Ashton Genty, the running back for Boise State, going to be a problem all season long. There are 2:50 to go in the first quarter. He has 6 carries for 104 yards and both touchdowns for the Broncos.
That's pretty good. That's a pretty good start to your year right there.
I would say so.
He's on a pace to have an historic season. So there's a look at your scores around the country. Not a ton going on here early on in week 1. Can't wait for those matchups to pick up as the season goes on. Is this the most underrated position group for the Oregon Ducks heading into the season? One we have not talked about yet. We will dive into it next. You got the Ducks pregame show live down here at Autzen Stadium on 1080 The Fan.
Labor Day is coming. A 3-day week.
Presented by Coors Light. Mountain Cold Refreshment. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly.
All right, welcome back in. Oregon Duck pregame show live here at Autzen Stadium. We're hanging out, Andy Johnson, Anthony Newman, Dusty Hara with you as we get closer and closer to kickoff for the 2024 season. Don't forget Anthony Newman's autograph hour coming up 2:30 to 3:30.
The mayor
right here,
the mayor
and autographs. The mayor of Eugene will be here.
It's an election year.
It is. He's running for office. It's a big deal, man.
They're bringing out a podium, and he's going to have his
speech. It's going to be a whole thing. Big stump speech.
He's the mayor of the Mo Pavilion.
When we're off. I'm
He's
ghost.
out. He's
I'm
out of here, man.
I'm ghost.
It's funny as we kind of go through this first pregame show of the year. You kind of look at every position group. You kind of go through the roster. There's one we have not brought up yet, and I wonder if it's just because it's such a certain that it's going to be good, or because of how consistently good Oregon has been there for so many years. But the running back room for Oregon this year, it feels like it's flying under the radar. Again, I don't know if it's because there's so many new pieces elsewhere, and we know how good Whittington is, hopefully back healthy for a full season, and Jordan James, who I think is ready for a breakout year. But, man, Oregon has been – I think it was Kenyon or LaMichael had this quote the other day saying, we need our respect as running back you.
Yeah.
Oregon has been that way for a very
correct.
long time, and another crop of guys this year that are poised to be dominant in the run game, I think.
Well, let's give a lot of credit to the offensive line for the running backs. Now, these running backs are great, but the offensive line, they have to do a great job up front. But here's the deal when you face the Oregon running backs. They're not the tallest running backs. No. Jordan James, he's about, 5'8", maybe 5'9". Noah Whittington, maybe a little smaller.
Yeah.
But you can't see them behind a huge offensive line. You can't see them among the trees. And then once they get to that second level, they explode. You can't arm tackle them. So that's why it makes it so hard for a defense. But also, they read the blocks well. If you can run the football, I'm telling you right now, you'll win most of your football games. And Oregon wants to run the football.
When you are small and see everything, that is the most dangerous running back you got. And, and that was LaMike and Kenyon.
Oh.
It wasn't LeGarrette Blount, who is a big old monster back there.
Right.
But that kind of goes down to what those guys were saying is the history and tradition of running backs at the University of Oregon.
Yeah.
This is going to be another loaded backfield, and they got 4. I mean, the guys that we've seen, right? Jordan James, Noah Whittington, it's not just them. Jaden Lamar, who we saw last year, really come on at the end of the year and show his hands late in the season as well.
Yep.
And then the Division II transfer, Jay Harris.
Big boy.
He is a load in the backfield.
He's a big boy.
And he's perfect for this offense, too, in that he is a one-cut back, right?
Yeah.
He will see a hole, put his foot in the ground, and then commit to that and lower his shoulder and plow you over.
Yeah.
But he has the ability to run through you and around you.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see Jay Harris. I'm excited to see the depth in this backfield where, there was that long, rich tradition of 1,000-yard rushers from the University of Oregon. With the depth that you have, I don't know if you see a 1,000-yard rusher this year. But at the same time, you're going to have a whole heck of a lot of rushing yards.
Yes. Well, the running back helps the quarterback. Dylan Gabriel, he loves a good running game because it's going to open up the pass. If I can run the football, hey, let's go in and win the game running the football. But then now I won't get touched because we got play action.
Exactly.
And next thing you know, no one's getting to the quarterback, and I can throw the ball.
Exactly. You look at what Jordan James did last year. To me, he is one of my biggest breakout guys this year. Not that we don't know who he is, but he was always, kind of year one. His second and third guy behind Whittington and Irving last year. Bucky was so good, and then Noah goes down, so he filled a little bit bigger of a role. He averaged over 7 yards a carry last year.
Yeah.
Jordan James did.
I know.
Over 7 yards a carry for maybe about 700 yards on the season, give or take. He added, as you mentioned, Dusty Garone in the receiving game, 120 yards and a touchdown through the air as well. I remember that touchdown catch he had against Utah, which was a great play. To me, he's that multifaceted dual back that he's going to have the ability to take breathers every now and then because they're so loaded behind him. But he, to me, has one of the best running backs in the nation written all over him. That dude is an absolute stud.
Two things that we've come accustomed to hearing with Will Stein's offense, and we need to get even more familiar with, sail and rail, right? The sail concept where they're running those big outs in the corners back behind them by the wide receivers, and then the rail route from the running back out of the backfield, and it creates a mismatch and a nightmare for defenses. When you have guys that can stretch you vertically. You can turn corners and safeties' eyes by having crossing routes across the field and then have that rail route from the back out of the backfield. It is incredibly hard to defend when you're saying, all right, linebacker at 240 pounds, keep up with these guys.
Well, it's play action. It's, okay, you have to stop the running game, and they run the football. Now the linebackers are flying up to the line of scrimmage. Well, no, the running back is going on a pass play, and he's going down the middle of the field, and you're going, wait, that's a pass. What's going on? Now, you get the linebackers lost, and now they're guessing, is this run or is this pass? What's going on?
You already have a speed disadvantage, and you're running at him as he's running the opposite direction. Doesn't help you.
Some of those young guys, too. Jaden Lamar, a guy who might get a chance to see. He had tote the rock a ton today. So that is a loaded position group. Oregon, I think, deserves more credit as running back. And this group will only add to that legacy as the season goes on. Will be great to see Noah Whittington back in uniform, a guy who works his tail off behind the scenes. Had a tough injury last year, and it'll be fun to watch him again this year.
I go back to the game he got injured, Colorado game on the sideline, and Ducks are going down to score and add another one on. That injury called the dogs off for Oregon in that game, and Lanning was like, all right, out, no Moss, we don't want to lose anybody more. If that play doesn't happen, I wonder how many points Oregon would have scored.
42-0 at the time in the third quarter, and then they didn't score the rest of the game.
I wonder what they would have done, because they were out for blood that day.
They were. They sent a message, and that message was well received. What is the game to watch today in college football? Which one are we circling? That's coming up next. Ducks pregame show on 1080 The Fan.
Nachos, get your nachos.
Responsibly. Find out which game across the country our hosts are most interested in. Other than our game, of course.
Never a good look when your conference champion can't beat like an 8-4 team from the SEC.
This is the game to watch on your home for Ducks football. The Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
All right, we hear from Joey Harrington coming up in a moment. We are live down here at Autzen Stadium with the pregame show kickoff coming up at 4:30. The game to watch. Not a great opening slate in the world of college football. Only a small number of ranked matchups of teams. The game to watch for Anthony Newman today is
Notre Dame and Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Come
Dusty
on.
doubling
What
down,
else?
or you going elsewhere?
For today, that's
Just
it.
for today.
Tomorrow
Yeah,
it's
you throw tomorrow, but
SC
you-
LSU.
well,
SC LSU is tomorrow. In that one,
true.
I want to see which team wants to play defense this year because neither of them decided to last year.
73-70 final. Sign me up, man.
Yeah. But today, I'm with Anthony 100%.
It's got to be that game. If Notre Dame wins, they are almost a lock to make the college football playoff. Go look at the rest of their schedule. That is easily the game to watch today. We will get to the clear advantage coming up in a bit. Don't forget Mike Jorgensen right around the corner. Jorgie will be stopping by as he always does on the pregame show. But hear from Joey Harrington, Oregon Duck quarterback legend. That is next on 1080 The Fan.
Duck fans, game day is here.
Absolutely. Can you legitimately say that they are one of 6 to 8 teams that have a real shot of winning a national championship? Yes. Now, I'm not being, you know me, I'm always going to be an Oregon homer, but I will do it in a respectful, thoughtful way. If we're calling a spade, this coaching staff has had 4, what's the word we want to use? Like impactful, just call them rivalry games, right? 4 really important games over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And they haven't won any of them, right? So for me, when you say the most anticipated, we knew what we were going to get from Marcus, right? We knew what we were going to get from our 01 team. We knew what we were going to get from Bo. For me, there is still a little bit of, for all of this talent, and you know me, I think Dan and the staff have done an unbelievable job, top to bottom. However, we still have, we've got a new quarterback, right? Is he going to be a Heisman Trophy, likely one of the 2 favorites? Yeah, he is. He's going to be incredible, but he's still new, right? We still don't quite know what he's done. The coaching staff still hasn't gotten over that hump in terms of, winning those big games. So, there is a little bit of, at least I personally have a little bit of, anxiety is not the right word, but there's still a few question marks that I'm sure will be answered after week 2.
That is Joey Harrington, courtesy of Mods PDX. The future of building is here.
Looking for a better primary care experience? Welcome to Zoom Care. Zoom Care is here for more than urgent needs. We can be your PCP too. Our primary care team has grown and is currently accepting new patients. Don't wait for the care you need. You can have your first visit with one of our many providers within 48 hours. And we take most insurances. Why wait weeks for an appointment when you can be seen today? Learn more about establishing primary care at zoomcare.com. Zoom Care. Beyond better healthcare.
I know you want one of the new top-rated TVs.
And a low price.
We can get a top-rated Samsung, LG, or Sony TV at a better deal than you found on the internet.
No way. Where?
At Video Only. This weekend, they've got special 3-day-only prices on all those top TVs.
Video Only can beat all these deals I've found?
That's right. This weekend, Video Only's got great deals on the best TVs. So let's check them out, or...
We'll be sorry.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day. Mountain cold refreshment. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly.
Oh, what a throw. What a catch. What a catch. Terrence Ferguson.
Pacific Office Automation presents The Clear Advantage. A look at the players and units that match up well for the Ducks. Pacific Office Automation has your office game plan. Visit them today for a full technology assessment at pacificoffice.com.
All right, clear advantage time for today's game against Idaho. You kind of pick your poison anywhere you want to go on the roster. Oregon has advantages at a lot of different places, but I think the first and foremost to point to is the advantage at the offensive and defensive line. Point of attack, size, strength, a massive advantage for the Oregon Ducks today in this game against Idaho, and we'll see if that comes to fruition here as kickoff is a little over 2 hours away. Mike Jorgensen, the color analyst for the Oregon Ducks, he is coming up next. Pacific Office Automation has your office game plan. Visit them today for a full technology assessment at pacificoffice.com. Mike Jorgensen, color analyst of the Ducks, next. Now it's time for Ducks Game Day traffic and weather. Every 10 minutes brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in store or online for pickup and delivery at victorricos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
Looking at about 45 extra minutes on your way down to Autzen. Big delay from basically Boone's Ferry through Wilsonville and down to about Woodburn, and then again from Salem almost all the way to Albany. And the Beavs also at home as well. There are a lot of extra cars on the road. 89 and sunny currently in Portland. Going to be a hot one, high of 97. It's 86 and sunny in Eugene. Look for mostly sunny skies and 91 at Kick with a slight breeze. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food.
This is the day of the big sale.
am live at Autzen Stadium, joined by the man that we can't wait for every pregame show. Mike Jorgensen is back. What's up, Jorgie?
Good
How
to
we
see
doing?
you guys. Couldn't wait to get down here.
How was the off season, Jorgie? You have a good off
great.
season?
Yeah, really good. Yeah, nice hot summer.
Nice hot summer.
Not enough golf. Ever.
I know. You can't.
No, right?
You can't fit it in anymore.
This is my role model. You know, I was
This
a
guy right
freshman
here.
when he was a senior. Okay, so he's so. But look at him now. Look how built he is. This guy takes care of himself.
It's mango habanero whiskey.
That's
the key. Yeah.
Mango, hold on, let me write that. I'm going to write
Every
that
other
one down.
night.
Every other night,
Yeah.
mango habanero whiskey.
Oh,
Okay,
I thought
I'm
it was
going to make
cookies.
note of that. That's what I
my
thought.
thing was cookies.
I've been on the
Sugar
cookie
too.
diet, a little bit. Throw it in there. We were just talking, Jorgie, before we came back. This is quite a scene. We've been down here for a long time. I went to school here. You guys have been around the program a long time. The anticipation, I can't remember the last time it was this high, and I think it's evident of what we're seeing. They play Idaho today, and it's standing room only.
Yeah, and no disrespect to Idaho.
No.
But at the same time, there was a buzz here yesterday when I came for our usual pick'em show from 1 to 2 that Joey and I and Jerry do. And I pulled up in a parking lot. First of all, I couldn't find a parking spot, so then I had to go 2 lots down to where our press pass is for the Science Center across the street to be able to park, to be able to get over.
That's a walk.
Wow.
And
That's
then,
a walk.
Yeah, and that's okay too. But there were people all over the place. It was, and it's cool. It's cool to see people are excited for this team. They're excited for the Big Ten era.
Yeah.
They're excited for what's happening and what's new that they have a chance to look at here today.
I mean, when I look at the game today, there's so many different angles you can go down. Is there one atop the list that you're most excited to see today? New faces, new quarterback, anything that tops the list for you?
Well, I mean, new quarterback, obviously.
Yeah.
I want to see if Dylan Gabriel can get adjusted to this offense as quickly as possible. You know, I mean, he's been a couple of different places. You know, that first year in a new system, you got spring, and then all of a sudden you're right into it with the preseason, camp that they have here. And so you got to get up to speed pretty quick. He's going to have to if you're going to reach the aspirations of a top 5 team preseason poll. So, that's one guy I'm really looking forward to seeing. Always fun to watch Tez because he's so exciting. Evan Stewart on the offensive side of the ball. I want to see, if he's got that breakout speed that everybody talks about. It's tough to see in practice because of the guys he's going against all the time.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the thing about it. And defensively, I really look forward to seeing some of the transfers that have come in, but mostly the outside rush guys, the outside linebackers, Purchase and Uiagalelei and Tuioti, and I just thought those guys as freshmen, particularly Tuioti and Purchase, were really good last year. Now they're a year older, a year wiser, a year stronger. A lot of fun, I think, is going to be watching these guys.
And also talk about the depth, because we're talking about this is the old USC, this the stockpile of their players. Oregon has so many guys. They have 6 receivers. We mentioned 3 of them, but there's 3 more that can start somewhere else. So when you play teams like that, you're getting tired, and they're rotating players.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
Yeah, well, and I don't know if Idaho can, because that's one of the things that when you're playing at the FCS level, you don't have that type of depth to be able to get you through games like this, let alone the other games within your own conference. But I think Anthony, it's a good thing, because in this league, guys are going to get beat up. They did in the Pac-12 conference every year. Every year you would have a guy or 2 or 3 at certain positions where you had to be able to plug and play and not drop off. Offensive line right now is getting tested a little bit with some guys that are banged up and bruised a little bit type of deal. So you're all of a sudden having to take, a center and move him to guard, taking Harper, move him to center. All of a sudden you've got, a walk-on play in center that's really gotten a lot better. I mean, you got to have that depth, and I don't care what position it's at, whether it's at receiver, at tight end, offensive line, quarterback. It's as deep a quarterback room as I've ever seen. Quality.
Yes.
And now you go to the defensive side of the ball, I think they've got the depth too. So you got to have the guys in a league like this that, a lot of games potential you're going to play this year.
When you have so many guys, doesn't that create competition within your team? So when you have your practices, they're harder than games. That's what Kobe Bryant used to say. I need my practice harder than the game. I need bringing some guys who can challenge me during practice.
Yeah.
Well, now you're getting everybody wanting playing time, and they have to prove that on the practice field first to wow the coach. Yeah. So now you have your practices like, ooh, we got a 1 going against a 1 realistically.
Yeah.
Well, that's a battle.
Basically, what you're saying is what I've said to a lot of guys when I've come out to watch practice, and that is, I used to come, whether it was 11, 12, 13, 2014 in those years, and there were 4 or 5 players that would just stick out like a sore thumb. A Marcus or a DeAnthony or a Royce Freeman, or guys that would you just go, geez, he's good.
He's a stud.
I come out to practice, and they're so good on both sides of the ball. You don't see guys make those type of plays. Every once in a while you do, where somebody gets free, or Muhammad is taking on Evan Stewart and he beats him by a step, maybe. But then the next play he's got Muhammad right in his face, type of deal. So it's been tough to see, but it's great. And in the transfer era, when it comes to transfer time, all of a sudden those guys are going, I'm sitting 3 or 4, and I think I should be sitting 1 or 2, and it's a different era altogether. But that depth helps because there's no drop off, whether ones are against twos, ones are against threes. Sometimes some pretty good threes out there. I'll tell you right now.
And Lanning loves to tout that too, that they haven't lost a starter in the transfer portal in 2 years, that they haven't lost a key contributor, guys maybe further down the depth chart, but not a consistent player. And so they do a really good job of recruiting their own guys. When you look
culture
at
too, by the way.
culture is massive, and we got a great look at it in the documentary series the team did. It was so fun to see the team building concepts as well. How about the continuity too of having coordinators back in place? That it feels like been a lot of years in the last 5-6 years where not only Lanning's coming in, whole new staff, then your OC leaves, now it's a new OC. It's just having that continuity is a bit of a nice start to the beginning of the season.
It is. I mean, having those key coaches at the key positions in particular, and the coordinator positions, and there's always going to be 1 or 2 that has an opportunity to move on someplace, whether it's Laughlin to Ohio State or whoever else it might be. But they've filled in some really good guys in those areas, and I'm just excited to see. I guess for me, can they be as efficient as they were on both sides of the ball last year? 35 sacks. They turned the ball over 7 times. They give up 5 sacks each of the last 2 years. You're not turning the ball over. You're efficient. He throws it at 77%, which is all-time record. So to expect that type of deal, not realistic. But Dylan Gabriel has gotten better and better and better. And the thing I like about him, a lot like Bo Nix, 125 touchdown passes, 26 interceptions, 5-to-1 ratio, and that's about what Bo was. I think Bo was like at 114 or 115 TDs, 25 interceptions. So you want to see guys that take good care of the ball, make good decisions, don't throw it up for grabs, and give the other team a free possession.
Seems like he's going to be a perfect fit for this offense, man. I can't wait. The anticipation is here. The crowd is massive today. Idaho is in town. Biggest question mark for you on this team this year is what?
Gosh, that's a really good question. I would just say I think the offensive line is really good.
Yeah.
Can they play at the level that the offensive line played at last year? Because I think that was the key to Oregon, blowing people out all season long, playing 2 close losses with Washington. It was offensive line doing what they needed to do. Can this offensive line mirror what they did last year? I think they're going to really miss Jackson Powers Johnson. Not only as a player, and the guys that are stepping in for him are pretty good players too, but the leadership piece of it, mentality. I want to see these guys run it down their throat today. I mean, that's why I want to see it start off.
Come out, run the football.
That's right. Jerry says he wants to see a fast start, but by God, do it by just kicking their butt at the line of scrimmage. So I can't wait.
Buddy, it's great to see you, Jordy. Welcome back to another year. Look at this. We're here,
fun.
Merry Christmas.
Everybody looks good.
Everybody's looking good, right? We got our gear on. Come on, baby. A new season. Mike Jorgensen, color analyst of the Oregon Ducks. We'll send it up to him and Jerry and Dusty here in just a matter of moments. What's at stake? That's coming up next. Ducks pregame show on 1080 The Fan.
Looking for a career
hosts look at the most impactful games in college football. Brought to you by Laurelhurst Market. More than just your friendly neighborhood steakhouse. Make your reservation today at laurelhurstmarket.com.
All right, what's at stake? Brought to you by Laurelhurst Market. As we're close to wrapping things up, the team is about to walk through the Moe Center here right behind us. I'm sure a band is going to be playing us off here in a matter of moments. We're getting closer and closer to kickoff, 4:30 right here on the Fan. What's at stake is obviously a 1-0 start for the Oregon Ducks. What do we think of the Notre Dame and Texas A&M game? Give me a quick winner, boys. Who we got tonight in College Station?
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame gets a win on the road.
I think Notre Dame as well. I think Notre Dame goes out because this. You said it earlier. How big this game is for Notre Dame in their college football playoff resume. You beat an SEC team, you do it on the road, and then all of a sudden you go down the list of who they play. They're playing like basically the glorified Oregon State, Washington State, Mountain West hybrid schedule.
That's right.
Big game for them.
Very manageable. I'll make it 3 for 3. We'll go Notre Dame and 3 for 3. What's at stake? That's the most impactful game
Texas
probably
A&M definitely is winning
football.
now.
Now it's guaranteed. I should have picked A&M just because of that. Damn it. What's at stake is always brought to you by Laurelhurst Market. More than just your friendly neighborhood steakhouse. Make your reservation today at laurelhurstmarket.com. Don't forget to listen to the Pacific Office Automation postgame scoreboard show for your chance to hear the Game Day secret score and win a $100 Laurelhurst Market gift card, which Sprague and I will give away in the 7 a.m. hour on Tuesday this week because there was no show on Monday. 7 a.m. hour Tuesday, your chance to win $100 Laurelhurst Market gift card, but you got to listen and get the secret score in the Pacific Office Automation post-game scoreboard show coming up after the game. Last thoughts on the game. We'll wrap up our pregame show. That's next. Line to watch on 1080 The Fan.
It's not even that far.
That's nothing compared to
And predict the score of today's Ducks game. Don't worry, we'll check their work after the game on the post-game scoreboard show. The Line to Watch is brought to you by Multnomah County Behavioral Health Division. Don't let the game play you. For more information on problem gambling prevention and treatment resources, visit opgr.org.
All right, welcome back in. Line to Watch, our final segment here before we send you up into the booth as we wrap up our pregame show. And let's get our final thoughts on this one, Anthony, of just staying healthy, being physical, running the football. It's just going to be great to have Oregon football back today. I can't wait to watch it, and it's going to be so much fun, man.
Well, there's a lot of kids on this field I want to see play, a lot of new faces. I want to see the execution of the offense and the defense. Dan Lanning's done a great job. These guys have had just a massive training camp. I mean, they just went after they did a lot together. Now you want to see them put it together on the field, you know, and play well, play as one team, one heartbeat. It's going to be a lot of fun. You know, I want them to come out and run the football.
Yep.
You know, run it until you get maybe 400 yards rushing.
Just keep going.
And just establish the running game early, and then see a lot of young guys get out there and play a little bit and have some fun and compete.
It's going to be fun, man. I know this game for a lot of folks, you know, you kind of look at the schedule and you think, oh, Idaho, not that big of a deal. First off, sellout, standing room only. It was sold out over a week ago, which is awesome. So that's cool to see. And then for a lot of people who get a chance to come to a game, maybe a cheaper ticket than the rest of the schedule, this place is packed, man. I can't remember being here for a first game of the year where Oregon has largely played an inferior opponent, and it's a Portland State.
I don't want to be disrespectful.
I feel like Ohio State's in town right now, man.
But this is crazy.
I feel like
this is crazy.
Are the Huskies in town today? today? Did I miss it? Were we on the wrong day? Did I miss it? Is Michigan here today?
Who's playing today?
What is going on, man? I love it, dude. It is awesome. This place is packed, and it's going to be a ton of fun all afternoon long. Reminder, kickoff coming up at 4:30. The postgame show afterwards is Buck, Will, and Schulte will have you breaking everything down. So if you're driving home, hopefully the drive down wasn't too bad for you. Your final score prediction of the day, Anthony Newman. What do we got? Final score.
I don't give that final score, but I'm going to give you one.
Okay, what do we got today?
Say,
give me a winning margin. Here, how about this? The spread is 47. Do they win by more than 47?
Yes,
okay,
they do.
We'll keep it simple, just like that.
Thank you.
I'll give you.
Thank you, partner.
I'll give you 72-7. I'll go 72-7.
Okay.
72-7.
Okay.
Early Idaho score. Maybe they sneak one in the first half, and then just waves of death.
Well, I was going to ask you, they score the first half or the second half?
First half. I think we get a first half tutty, and then second half shutout when Oregon they're rolling guys in deep. Idaho kind of runs out of gas, and their depth can't quite keep up.
There you go.
That's my final score prediction. Maybe not quite to the level of Oregon and Portland State last year. I think Oregon got into the 80s in their opener last year. We'll see if they can do that again here today. The line to watch is brought to you by Multnomah County Behavioral Health Division. Don't let the game play you. For more information on problem gambling prevention and treatment resources, visit opgr.org. Well, buddy, your autograph session is going to start now. Lines form right
here.
You see
my bag? I got my bag. You see it? It's packed. You see it? Matter of fact, my football players, they're going to block for me.
Exactly,
they're going to block for me.
Clear room. Well, hey, have fun with your players today, man.
Yeah,
That's going to be awesome.
It's going to be great.
Westland Lions are all down here. This place is jam-packed, man. It's going to be a blast this afternoon. Game's coming up. Kickoff at 4:30. Don't forget the post-game scoreboard show, obviously, after the game. And now we're going to send you up into the booth with Jerry, Jorgie, Dusty, and the guys will take you the rest of the way up until kickoff. Happy, should I say Merry Christmas, everybody. We made it, man. Football season is here. I love it. Thanks so much for tuning in and listening. We'll be back next week for the Boise State game. As always, go Ducks.
Oregon Ducks football on 1080 The Fan is brought to you by Coors